Welcome back to Squawk Box. This Pride Month, retailers like Target, Kohl's, and PetSmart have come under attack for their annual LGBT Pride merchandise displays and ad campaigns. Today, GLAAD is announcing that more than 40 major corporations, including Dow, Gilead, HP, Pfizer, Sony Music, and others, have signed a commitment to stand firm against the escalation of bullying and harassment towards the gay community. Joining us right now is Sarah Kate Ellis, a GLAAD CEO. Good morning to you. And we're glad to see you this morning, but there's so much to talk about because there really is a remarkable backlash taking place in this country. And we've seen it with Budweiser probably being the most prominent. And I'm so curious how you've been thinking about that and what you think is really happening here.
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me. I think we need to reframe this, and I think the headlines got away from us on this one, which is that companies that did back down to bullies actually saw this escalate. But those companies, there are hundreds of companies that are still running pride campaigns. And there are many companies that stood up to these extremist bullies and actually didn't see any problems because they didn't back down. And I think we're talking about companies like North Face, Nike, Walmart, Cracker Barrel, NASCAR, the Sesame Street, who saw these bullies and extremists coming for them and stood their ground. Because what we do know.
So you think the problem is that Budweiser stepped away? You think the problem was that Target sort of backed down? That was the issue?
Right. Yeah, you might as well be on the schoolyard. As soon as a bully comes to you and threatens you, if you back down, you give them more room. If you stand your ground and say, you're not going to threaten me, you're not going to bully me, these are our values, these are the values that we stand with, then you go someplace else, then that changes the game. And we've seen it with the corporations. It's absolutely from them backing down. If you give in to extremists, and these folks used images of violence and threats of violence against these folks. And they were using it.
But what do you say? I mean, look, if you're working at Budweiser, and Bud Light specifically, and you look at that business down 26.8%, that's the sales figure that dropped in the aftermath of their campaign. And we could debate whether the campaign was a good campaign or a bad campaign, but you're saying that you think that drop was a function of them walking away or stepping back?
Absolutely. If you look at LGBTQ folks, our community and our allies talk with our dollars. And we don't want to be in the way of or supporting a company who didn't support us when the going got tough.
Oh, so hold on. So you think that the sales dropped because people in the LGBT community effectively were boycotting Bud Light?
Absolutely. And I think we'll see the same with Target. I can't tell you how many people say to me as allies, I'm not drinking Bud Light anymore. LGBTQ bars have stopped serving it. So you didn't stand with us. And when you look at these extremists and these folks that are riling it up online and social, it is a very small minority of people. They don't have the same buying power. I mean, it's math. Honestly. So we are going into the market to test it and see where the loss is coming to confirm this theory. But if you look at it in just dollars and cents, if 74% of Americans say that they believe companies should have pride campaign, pride merchandise, and we're twice as likely to shop from them, the numbers aren't waiting out. So I think they're taking credit, the extremists, for the drop in sales when I think it's actually the other way around.
Hey, Sarah Kate, just on the Target front, when they first moved some of the merchandise, they said they were concerned because their employees in the stores were being harassed, intimidated, and they had real concerns about their safety.
Safety is a real concern. When I was on some meetings with them, I said, welcome to being LGBTQ in America today. We're all concerned for our safety right now with these extremists. And I think we just saw the Biden administration up the level of FBI involvement for the LGBTQ community and Homeland Security. Now, I remember that they were being threatened too when mask wearing was mandatory, and there was a lot of violence threatened against these folks. They didn't back down. What they did was they increased security. and they increased the way that they handled this, and they trained their folks on the ground. So I think that there were other ways that they could have managed this that would have been much more proactive.
Sarah Kate, have you spoken with the targets and the folks at Bud Light and others about this? And what is the reaction that you've been getting when you make the case that you just made to our audience about what's happening here?
Yeah, I think, my feeling is that they made split decisions, and they moved. They weren't seeing the culture that we were living in, right? Like, we have been seeing this as a community. At GLAAD, we've tracked over 160 attacks or threats of violence at LGBTQ events in less than a year. So we know the culture that we're living in. I don't think these folks knew, and they moved quickly without thinking it all through. And they gave in to bullies.